learned how to draw a square using Python. Let's learn how to make that square move. So first of all, we've got to start our Python console. If you want to know how to install Python, that's all in the previous video, which I recommend you watch. From Turtle import star, that tells Python we want to draw stuff. Turtle is one of Python's graphics engines, which means it's used for, something which can be used to draw pictures. Then we tell Python that we want to create a screen. Now we resize the screen so it's a bit more convenient. And we have somewhere to draw. Now just to recap, if you want to draw a square, you've got to set some colors. So outline color first, we'll make that red this time. And fill color, for any shapes we decide to fill, we'll make that yellow. So you can see the arrow here is now turned to a red with a yellow interior. Screen.begin fill to tell Python that, and Turtle that we want to create a filled shape. Screen.forward 50, screen.right 90. Notice how it's drawing over here as I type each command. Guess what the last two commands are? Great. And one final command to tell Python to pour a bucket of paint into our newly drawn shape, which is screen.endFill. And remember how we told it to make the fill color yellow? That's exactly what it's just done over here. It created a yellow screen, a yellow square. Now, say we wanted to create a moving square, a square that travels across the screen. Now, the way computers create moving pictures is pretty much the same as movies create moving pictures. Computers create the illusion of movement by drawing still pictures one after the other very quickly. Now, Turtle, as you've seen, is not super fast, so this is going to be a little bit jerky, but you know, first steps, we're going to make that square move. So how do we tell it to draw a square but do it in a slightly different place? Well, we can start by clearing the screen. Home, tell it to go back to where it was. Now we can do screen.forward 10, and let's make it 60. Uh-oh, there's a problem. We drew a line, and we want to move the pen rather than drawing. So we go screen.home, screen.clear. How do we tell Python not to draw when we move? And the way we do that is there's a command screen.pen up. So pen up, as in just like raising the pen off the sheet of paper so you don't draw. Now when we tell it screen.forward 50, don't know why I said 60, let's make it 50. The pen moves, but there's no line. And then to tell it that we want to start drawing again, we do, well, let's go screen.forward 100. So we're a really long way over now, so you can see that we've totally changed where we're going to draw our square. Now to tell Python that we want to start drawing a square again, we say screen.pen down. You guessed that, didn't you? Now when we start drawing, we do screen.begin fill. We don't have to change the color each time. Screen.forward forward 50. Yeah, sometimes programming can be a bit repetitive. And there you have it. We've got a square, but it's way over on the right of the screen rather than the middle where we started. So, how do we use this knowledge to create a square that appears to travel slowly across the screen? And the way we do that is we use our old friend the for loop. So if we do screen.home, no pen up, so it'll draw a line, and screen.clear. Now remember how in the previous video we used the for loop to save us from typing all these forward and right commands. We're going to do that again, except this time we're going to use the for loop to make the square travel across the screen. So starting from home, okay, where we're at. Now now we've got to decide how many frames we want in our moving picture. Now this is fairly slow drawing, so it's going to be a little bit jerky, but hey, it's a start. You can use it to do some fun things. Obviously, you know, more sophisticated graphic systems faster, but you know, Turtle's a good place to start. So let's put in 100, or let's put in 50 frames in our little movie strip. So for for frame equals range 50, which tells us we want 50 frames. Oops, forgot to put that's wrong syntax. Don't be afraid to make mistakes in programming. I've been doing it for 35 years and I make mistakes all the time. Shh, don't tell anyone. Alright, for frame in range 50, screen.clear. You can see where this is going, can't you? We're going to use the pen up command that we showed just before when we're moving it, because we need to create it. What we're going to do is we're going to create a series of squares very quickly, one after the other, and each square is going to be in a slightly different place. So we've got to do screen.pen-up, screen.forward 2, that should be enough. So that means we're going to start the pen in a slightly different place each time, which will make our square move across the screen. Screen.pen down, and the rest of it is we're going to draw our square. So same commands as up here. Screen dot begin fill. And we just do the commands to draw the square. None of these commands are getting executed yet because we're still building our for statement. How many have I done? One forward, two forward, three forward, four forwards. That looks like four squares on four edges on a square. And screen.end fill. What do you think is going to happen when we do this? Let's find out. the square is slowly moving across the screen. So you can see, probably I should have made it move a bit more each time, but you can see that it's slowly edging across the screen. Okay. Wow, it's finished. So you can see there, even though it wasn't super obvious at the time, that it was slowly edged. So it started, instead of drawing in the middle of the screen, it slowly edged across the screen. Now obviously that's not very convincing motion, so we need to introduce a new function to make the drawing a little more convincing. And the way we do that is we have to tell Turtle not to update the screen until we've actually finished drawing the square. This is a little bit more complicated, so watch exactly what I do. We're going to say screen dot tracer false. Sorry, my bad. It's not on the screen. Tracer false. Okay. Now what this has done is it tells Turtle not to draw anything until we use the update command. So if we do screen dot clear now, and then screen dot home, nothing appears to happen till we do screen dot update. Sorry, update. And we can see there that suddenly we can see the results of the last command. Making a few of those mistakes this time. So some commands operate on screen, some of them need to do. So just to recap there, if we do screen.clear, that works. If we do tracer false, as we've done, let's draw a square. That was begin fill. Forward. Now watch what happens. You see how nothing's happening on the graphic screen because we told it tracer false. We don't want anything to appear until we're ready. So I've typed all these commands. The fill worked. So you see the square appeared a lot quicker because even though we were typing the commands, we weren't watching anything, any outlines being drawn. We just waited for the square. So let's try that forward command. We'll do a few, we'll make it fewer and bigger steps, I think, just to make life a bit interesting. So remember, we've got to start with tracer false. Now our for command to animate and move the picture. Oh, actually, let's clear the screen first. Home, just to reset everything. For command. Make it 20 this time. Pen up. Make it a bit more obvious that it's moving, so we're going to make it 5, move forward 5 each time. Well, I make it move forward 4 each time maybe. And our commands to draw the square. Oops. Now, you notice the two different commands that we have here. Tracer false to tell it to hold off drawing anything until we're ready, and screen dot. Oh, sorry. Update command for that screen to tell it that we want it to actually apply everything that we've just told it to draw. Let's see what happens when we run that. So tracer false and update are the only things that are different about this than the previous attempt to animate. 2 returns. And there we have, and I forgot to clear the screen. See how fast it was though. Let's try that again. Pressing the up arrow just gets us back. Except this time, I'm going to say, after the update, I'm going to say screen.clear. That didn't really help us because it's clearing the screen too quickly. How do we deal with this? Well, in Python, there's a command you can use to make it hesitate slightly because we've gone from too slow to too fast. Now we need to do a new import here because we need to tell Python we need to use time commands. So the previous import was turtle, now we're importing time. Okay. So how are we going to use time? The way time works is that time has a command called sleep. We tell it to sleep for 1 second, it'll hesitate for a second. If you tell it to sleep for 5 seconds, you won't get the command prompt back for 5 seconds. Now, 1 second and 5 seconds are a bit too long, so how about we tell it to sleep for 0.1 seconds. That's really fast, but it's actually about right for our animation. So if we press up arrow to save me typing it all in again, this time before doing a screen.clear, I'm going to use that time.sleep to, oh, actually before we do that, we better do screen.home. Oops, update, sorry, keep forgetting. Right, okay, so now we're at our starting point. Now, as I said, this time when we do the animate, pointing the up arrow, because, there we go. And we want to use that time.sleep that we just demonstrated. And we want 0.1 seconds, which is a tenth of a second, to see our square before the screen gets cleared. Let's see how that looks. Huh, moving square, I like that. Let's make it go for longer. Let's make it go for 50 this time. Who says you can't do things in Python? All right, better get back home again. Drew a line again, never mind. Who wants to see it move down rather than across? Let's do that. So how do we make it move down? Well, there's a really good tricky way of doing that. Actually, if I do this, it will let me think, screen.write, and that is, before I start this, actually I know how to do this. We'll move and point the cursor downwards before we execute that for statement again. So we'll do one additional write 90. And now the cursor's pointing downwards. So our animation will travel in the direction that we've told it to travel. Up arrow is a lot easier than typing all that stuff again. Now, see what it's doing. It's going to say 50 frames. Now screen.forward 4. Except because the arrow is pointing downwards, forward, it means down 4 instead of right 4. Let's try that, and we'll have a square travelling. If I've done this right, we should have a square travelling down the screen. Graphics. Wasn't that awesome? All right, I think that's enough excitement for today. In the next video, we'll start looking at how we can turn these moving shapes into something a bit more sophisticated, like bouncing shapes or cannonballs flying or something. So yeah, if you've got any suggestions of what you'd like to see, please leave a comment. Otherwise, thank you for watching. It is important that you try this stuff for yourself. Programming is learned by doing, not just by watching videos. Look forward to next time.